You know, this light makes it look like I don't have a nose. I have a nose. The Life of Pope was written by Johnson Kanamori, both from the early possession which that writer had taken of his mind, and from the pleasure which he must have felt in forever silencing all attempts to lessen his poetical fame by demonstrating his excellence, in pronouncing the following triumphant eulogium. After all this, it is surely superfluous to answer the question that has once been asked, whether Pope was a poet, otherwise than by asking in return if Pope was not a poet, where is poetry to be found? To circumscribe poetry by definition will only show the narrowness of the definer, though a definition which shall exclude Pope will not easily be made. Let us look round upon the present time and back upon the past. Let us inquire to whom the voice of mankind has decreed the wreath of poetry. Let their productions be examined and their claims stated, and the pretensions of Pope will be no more disputed. I was quoting Johnson there. I remember once to have heard Johnson say, Sir, 1,000 years may elapse before there shall appear another man with a power of versification equal to that of Pope. That power must undoubtedly be allowed its due share in enhancing the value of his captivating composition. Johnson, who had done liberal justice to Warburton in his edition of Shakespeare, which was published during the life of that powerful writer, with still greater liberality took an opportunity in the life of Pope of paying the tribute due to him when he was no longer in high place, but numbered with the dead. Now a very, very long footnote. Here we go. Of Johnson's conduct towards Warburton, a very honorable notice is taken by the editor, Dr. Parr, of Tracts by Warburton and a Warburtonian, not admitted into the collection of their respective works. That's the name of the notice, the tract. After an able and fond, though not undistinguishing, consideration of Warburton's character, he says, in two immortal works, Johnson has stood forth in the foremost rank of his admirers. By the testimony of such a man, impertinence must be abashed, and malignity itself must be softened. Of literary merit, Johnson, as we all know, was a sagacious but a most severe judge. Such was his discernment that he pierced into the most secret springs of human actions, and such was his integrity that he always weighed the moral characters of his fellow creatures in the balance of the sanctuary. He was too courageous to propitiate a rival, and too proud to truckle to a superior. Warburton he knew as I knew him, and as every man of sense and virtue would wish to be known. I mean, both from his own writings and from the writings of those who dissented from his principles or who envied his reputation. But as to favors, he had never received or asked any from the Bishop of Gloucester, and, if my memory fails me not, he had seen him only once, when they met almost without design, conversed without much effort, and parted without any lasting impressions of hatred or affection. Yet, with all the ardor of sympathetic genius, Johnson has done that spontaneously and ably, which, by some writers, had been before attempted injudiciously, and which, by others, from whom more successful attempts might have been expected, has not hitherto been done at all. He spoke well of Warburton, without insulting those whom Warburton despised. He suppressed not the imperfections of this extraordinary man, while he endeavored to do justice to his numerous and transcendental excellencies. He defended him when living amidst the clamors of his enemies, and praised him when dead amidst the silence of his friends. So I was quoting a tract on Warburton, in which the author says here, Dr. Parr, speaks of Johnson writing about Warburton. And now Boswell adds, Having availed myself of this editor's eulogy on my departed friend, for which I warmly thank him, let me not suffer the luster of his reputation, honestly acquired by profound learning and vigorous eloquence, to be tarnished by a charge of illiberality. He has been accused of invidiously dragging again into light certain writings of a person respectable by his talents, his learning, his station, and his age, which were published a great many years ago and have since, it is said, been silently given up by their author. But when it is considered that these writings were not sins of youth, but deliberate works of one well advanced in his life, it says here in a footnote, Richard Hurd, overflowing at once with flattery to a great man of great interest in the church, and with unjust and acrimonious abuse of two men of eminent merit, and that though it would have been unreasonable to expect in a humiliating recantation, no apology whatever has been made in the cool of the evening, for the oppressive fervor of the heat of the day. No slight relenting indication has appeared in any note or any corner of later publications. It is not fair to understand him as superciliously persevering, when he allows the shafts to remain in the wounds, and will not stretch forth a lenient hand. Is it wrong? Is it not generous to become an indignant avenger? I don't know what Boswell's going off about. Seems like he's talking here about he's defending the guy who wrote this tract, who he doesn't name, against this other person who he also doesn't name. So it's a little passive-aggressive. They were a little passive-aggressive back then. Which is why they like Johnson, because Johnson was rarely passive-aggressive, although he can be when he talks about people. Well, I guess he can be passive when he talks about somebody behind their back, which he says not to do, but he does all the time. Anyway, he seems like fresh air, I guess, compared to a lot of these people. Back to the Pope thing, though. It seems strange that two such men as Johnson and Warburton, who lived in the same age in country, should not only not have been in any degree of intimacy, but been almost personally unacquainted. But such instances, though we must wonder at them, are not rare. If I am rightly informed, after a careful inquiry, that never met but once, which was at the house of Mrs. French in London. If I am rightly informed, after a careful inquiry, they never met but once, which was at the house of Mrs. French in London, well known for her elegant assemblies and bringing eminent characters together. The interview proved to be mutually agreeable. Not according to that footnote, but whatever. I am well informed that Warburton said of Johnson, I admire him, but I cannot bear his style. And that Johnson, being told of this, said, that is exactly my case as to him. The manner in which he expressed his admiration of the fertility of Warburton's genius and of the variety of his materials was, the table is always full, sir. He brings things from the north and the south, and from every quarter. In his divine legation, you are always entertained. He carries you round and round, without carrying you forward to the point. But then you have no wish to be carried forward. He said to the Reverend Mr. Stram, Warburton is perhaps the last man who has written with a mind full of reading and reflection. It is remarkable that in the Life of Broome, Johnson takes notice of Dr. Warburton's using a mode of expression which he himself used, and that not seldom to the great offense of those who did not know him. And that not seldom. So I guess he's saying here, Dr. Warburton was ripping Johnson off. Having occasion to mention a note stating the different parts which were executed by the Associated Translators of the Odyssey, I'm guessing Johnson here says, Dr. Warburton told me in his warm language that he thought the relation given in the note a lie. The language is warm indeed, and I must own, cannot be justified in consistency with a decent regard to the established form of speech. Johnson had accustomed himself to use the word lie to express a mistake or an error in relation. In short, when the thing was not so as told, though the realtor did not mean to deceive. When he thought there was intentional falsehood in the relator, he expressed was, he lies and he knows he lies. Okay. A little confused there, but... Oh, I see. So that other part, the person who says Dr. Warburton told me in his warm language that he thought the relation given in the note a lie was not said by Johnson. Obviously, that was said by Dr. Warburton in The Life of Broome. So Broome's writing that there. I'm a little confused today, as you can tell. Anyway, none of this seems to matter that much, so I'm going to go on. Because we should be talking about Pope, because this is the Pope section. Speaking of Pope, not having been known to excel in conversation, Johnson observes that traditional memory retains no sallies of raillery or sentences of observation, nothing either pointed or solid, wise or merry, and that one apothegm only is recorded. In this respect, Poe differed widely from Johnson, whose conversation was, perhaps, more admirable than even his writings, however excellent. Mr. Wilkes has, however, favored me with one repertoire of Pope, of which Johnson was not informed. Johnson, after justly censuring him for having nursed in his mind a foolish disesteem of kings, tells us, yet a little regard shown him by the Prince of Wales mated his obduracy, and he had not much to say when he was asked by his Royal Highness how he could love a prince while he disliked kings. The answer which Pope made was, the young lion is harmless and even playful, but when his claws are full grown, he becomes cruel, dreadful, and mischievous. But although we have no collection of Pope's sayings, it is not therefore to be concluded that he was not agreeable in social intercourse, for Johnson has been heard to say that the happiest conversation is that of which nothing is distinctly remembered but a general effect of pleasing impression. The late Lord Somerville, who saw much both of great and brilliant life, told me that he had dined in company with Pope, and that after dinner the little man, as he called him, drank his bottle of Burgundy and was exceedingly gay and entertaining. Footnote here about Lord Somerville, not Lord Summerisle, not the Wicker Man character. Let me here express my grateful remembrance of Lord Somerville's kindness to me at a very early period. He was the first person of high rank that took particular notice of me in the most flattering to a young man, fondly ambitious of being distinguished for his literary talents, and by the honor of his encouragement made me think well of myself and aspire to deserve better. I can't read tonight. He had a happy art of communicating his varied knowledge of the world in short remarks and anecdotes with a quiet, pleasant gravity that was exceedingly engaging. Never shall I forget the hours which I enjoyed with him in his apartment in the Royal Palace of Holyrood House, and at the seat near Edinburgh, which he himself had formed with an elegant taste. All right. I cannot withhold from my great friend a censure of a least culpable inattention to a nobleman, who, it has been shown, behaved to him with uncommon politeness. He says, except Lord Bathurst, none of Pope's noble friends were such as that a good man would wish to have his intimacy with them known to posterity. This will not apply to Lord Mansfield, who was not ennobled in Pope's lifetime, but Johnson should have recollected that Lord Marchmont was one of those noble friends. He includes his lordship along with Lord Bolingbroke in a charge of neglect of the papers which Pope left by his will, when in truth, as I myself pointed out to him, before he wrote that poet's life, the papers were committed to the sole care and judgment of Lord Bolingbroke, unless he, Lord Bolingbroke, shall not survive me, so that Lord Marchmont had no concern whatever for them, or with them. After the first edition of the Lives, Mr. Malone, whose love of justice is equal to his accuracy, made, in my hearing, the same remark to Johnson, yet he omitted to correct the erroneous statement. This neglect did not arise from any ill will towards Lord Marchmont, but from inattention. Oh, this is a footnote from another editor. Just as he neglected to correct his statements concerning the family of Thompson the poet after it had been shown to be erroneous. See page 1000. Back to Boswell. These particulars I mention in the belief that there was only forgetfulness in my friend, but I owe this much to the Earl of Marchmont's reputation, who, where there are no other memorials, will be immortalized by the line of Pope in the verses of his grotto, and the bright flame was shot through Marchmont's soul. And now various readings in the life of Pope, being the corrections that Johnson made. So originally he had somewhat free in his criticisms, was changed to sufficiently bold in his criticisms. All the gay niceties of diction was changed to all the gay varieties of diction. Strikes the imagination with far more force was changed to strikes the imagination with far greater force. It is probably the noblest version of poetry which the world has ever seen was changed to it is certainly the noblest version of poetry which the world has ever seen. Every sheet enabled him to write the next with less trouble was changed to every sheet enabled him to write the next with more facility. No man sympathizes with vanity depressed was changed to no man sympathizes with the sorrows of vanity. It's a little better. It had been criminal was changed to it had been less easily excused. When he threatened to lay down his pen was changed to when he talked of laying down his pen. Society is so named emphatically in opposition to a state of nature was changed to society politically regulated is a state contradistinguished from a state of nature, which isn't really any better, but the original wasn't so good anyway. A fictitious life of an absurd scholar was changed to a fictitious life of a infatuated scholar. A foolish contempt disregard of kings was changed to a foolish disesteem of kings. His hopes and fears, his joys and sorrows were like those of other mortals was changed to his hopes and fears, his joys and sorrows acted strongly upon his mind. Eager to pursue knowledge and attentive to accumulate was changed to eager to pursue knowledge and attentive to retain it. A mind excursive, ambitious, and adventurous was changed to a mind active, ambitious, and adventurous. In its noblest researches, still longing to go forward, in its noblest researches, still longing to go forward, was changed to in its widest researches, still longing to go forward. He wrote in such a manner as might expose him to few neglects was changed to he wrote in such a manner as might expose him to few hazards. The reasonableness of my determination was changed to the justice of my determination. A favorite employment of the poets was changed to a delicious employment of the poets. And more terrific and more powerful beings perform on the stormy ocean was changed to more terrific and more powerful phantoms perform on the stormy ocean. The inventor of those petty beings was changed to the inventor of this petty nation, which seems quite a change. And finally, the mind naturally loves truth was changed to the heart naturally loves truth. Another big change. Well, that's it for today. Not one of my better readings, but I feel like in general, my readings have been pretty good for a while, so I was due a shitty one eventually. Until next time, bye from Boswell.